So this segment we will discuss about the 9 principles in detail. So every time we are having one question from this segment. Also last time we had something from the integrated reporting, also known as a 6 capital. So there also we had that discussion also we will do along with some few other questions which are considered as important. So firstly we will start with discussing about the 9 principles of BRSR. So what are the 9 principles of BRSR? Principle number 1 about the ethics, transparency and accountability. So first, before we do anything, we should eat. So ethics, transparency and accountability. So what it is telling? First one, policies. The entity's governing structure should develop policies, practices, and procedures. The entity's governing structure to develop policies, procedures, and practices for their offices, factories, and work area, ensuring that ethics is not compromised. So they should have policies, practices, and procedures. Then they should share that with the stakeholders. So they should not have it, they should share it with the stakeholders. So information of the policies, procedures and the practices with the performance should be made available to the stakeholders. So firstly the entity should develop the policies, procedures and practices for the offices, factories, work area to ensure that the ethics is not compromised, and then that they should share with the stakeholders, make it available to the stakeholders. Then third one, adverse effect. If there is any adverse effect, care is to be taken for the transparent disclosure of the adverse effect. So it should also be disclosed. Finally, we should also encourage others in the value chain to adopt these principles. So everyone should also be encouraged to adopt these principles. Finally, we should also proactively respond to entities outside the respond to outside entities that violate the 9 principles. So let us do it one more time. Firstly, we should develop the policies, procedures and the practices. Policy, procedure, practices for the offices, factories, work areas to ensure that the ethics is not compromised. So we should develop and have it with us? No. We should also make this available to the stakeholders along with the performance. So you should also see how it is being performed. We should make it available to the stakeholders. And if there is any adverse impact, that transparent disclosure should be done. Okay, so we should develop, we should share, transparent disclosure is to be done. Not just that, we should also encourage others to follow this, and we should also proactively respond if we see any violation in that. So that is principle number 1. Going to second one. 2 is always about inventory. Similarly, here also we are talking about goals, not goods, but we are talking about goals and services. So here the mnemonic is Mrs. Okay, Mrs. Goals and Services. So how it is given there, let us see. Firstly, minimize the resources. How? When we design the product or when we are choosing the production method and the technology. So product method and the technology. When we design the product and the production method and the technology, they should minimize the resource usage. Also, we should educate others, entities to educate and make consumers and the client aware about their rights. So we should make people aware about it. Next, we should also take measures to reduce the over exploitation of the natural resources to by consuming sustainability, and encourage methods of reuse, reduce and recycling should be encouraged. So first is that we should minimize the resources. Next, we should spread the awareness. Then we should encourage them to reduce the exploitation of the natural resources. Okay, minimize resources. How we will do when we are designing the product or designing the production method and the technology, there we should minimize the usage. Then we will spread the awareness, we will educate them. All right, we should also make them know about their rights, and we should take measures to reduce over exploitation of the resources also. So this is about principle number 2. Moving on to principle number 3, E, which is about employees. So with regard to employees, they should have dignity, health and well-being. So what are the points? Let us see. Firstly, employee is that, so we should ensure that we are complying with our thala, which is our regulatory requirements. We should have complied with regard to the employees, which means Factories Act, that per square so much people only should be there. If the number of people are so much facility should be there. There should be ambulance, there should be proper nurse, and the first aid kit should be like that. It's given in Factories Act. Okay, so ensure compliance with all regulatory requirements, that should be done. Dignity and freedom, respect the dignity of employee. So him we should respect. So law we should respect, and him also we should respect, and we should not restrict their freedom of association, union or collective bargaining of right and redressal of issue. So respect the dignity of employee as human being, and we should not restrict their freedom of collective association. Next, child labor. We should prevent child labor or bonded labor or any other form of involuntary labor should be prevented. Child labor, bonded labor or any other form of involuntary labor should be prevented. And there should be work-life balance. And prompt wages we should give it, like what wages? Living wages we should give, which is sufficient for them to cover their basic needs and to provide economic security. It should be given. Finally, it should be harassment free also. So what are with regard to employees? First, we should comply with the thala. We should ensure compliance with the regulatory requirements for as far as employees. For all the regulatory requirements, we should be complying. Then we should respect the employee as human being, and we should not restrict their freedom of association, union, collective bargaining of rights and redressal of issues. Next, we should prevent child labor, bonded labor and any other involuntary labor also we should prevent. There should be work-life balance. Then timely payment of wages should be there. Living wages should be there, and it should be harassment free and violence free. It should be there. Moving on to the next principle 4. Char log, which is the stakeholders. So we should also respect them. So there, what are the points? Disclose impact, determine context and share benefit. Disclose impact, determine context and share benefit. So disclose impact means, so we should do a transparent and communicate with all the stakeholders about the operation and the decision, what is happening. Based on that, we should disclose. The policies, decision and the impact of the operation is to be disclosed transparently with no ambiguity. So here, impact of the operation is going to be disclosed. Here, in principle number 1, we are talking about the adverse effect has to be disclosed. Okay, here about the normal impact, it has to be disclosed. Transparent communication with the stakeholders about the impact of operation and decision on people and nature has to be disclosed. Policy, decision and impact of operation have to be disclosed transparently with no ambiguity should not be there. So disclose impact, determine context. So context of operation and identify interested parties. So for what you are doing, for whom you are doing. So context, what is the real meaning, purpose or motive behind the thing that you are doing. And share benefit with the stakeholders or give opportunity to them to benefit from the operations in an equitable manner. So we should also share benefit to them. So disclose impact, determine context and share benefits with them. Principle number 5 Pancha Pandavaradana, so human right. 4 is stakeholders, char log. Okay, so with respect to human, first you should understand them. You should understand them and we should respect them. Okay, human, no, you should understand and respect them. Okay, understanding. So you should have an understanding of the human rights and ways in which the human rights can be violated. Okay, then respect and recognize human rights of all the stakeholders, groups, communities, consumers, vulnerable and marginalized groups. So marginalized groups here also we have, but this is given with regard to the human rights point. Okay, then management system. When developing the management system, integrate human right elements, also include the policies, procedures and the practices. Okay, so principle number 5 is human right. So understand what is a human right and how it will be violated. Next, respect all. Recognize and respect the human rights of whom the stakeholder group, vulnerable and marginalized community, consumers. Okay, then when the management is developing the management system itself, we should integrate human right element into the okay, which is the policies, procedures and practices we should incorporate in that. Next, principle number 6, protection and restoration of the environment. With regard to that, so we'll have to fix the environment. The 6 is about fixing the environment. So there what we will do. So when we talk about environment, firstly we'll talk about the policies, procedures and practices. So that they should see what is the impact abdina they should see. Okay, and whole life cycle of the product should be seen in there, because not alone waste, raw material also may be sometime impacting. Okay, so first is policy. So in the policy there should be ways to assess and rectify the impact on the environment. The whole life cycle should be covered in here. Next, climate change. Okay, so policy, climate change, contribute towards climate change resilience, supporting India's commitment to international mechanism. So we are going international, Paris and national action plan, so that we should see. Okay, in that also what they are telling, we should see the optimum use. So use what is needed, make use of natural and man-made resources in the optimum manner. Optimum use is that we will measure it. Okay, so how far it is preventing the pollution, destruction of forest, waste generation, that we'll see. So optimum use must be that, and also you should measure the performance. Optimum use, measure the performance. Optimum use and measure the performance. Then what are the best practices that is available in the industry, that we should also see, to reduce, reuse, recycle, recover, reduce, reuse, recycle, recover the materials and resources. All these things we should see. So first one is the policies. We should have the policies to assess and also to rectify. How much damage it done, how to rectify, assess and rectify, and it should cover the whole life cycle. Then we are going international. Okay, contribute towards a climate change resilience, supporting India's commitment to international mechanism, that also we should see. Then what is the optimum use, how we can make the optimum use of it, and how we can measure the performance, about how it is prevented. All right, then best practices about reuse, reduce, recycle, all those things also we are going to see. Then moving on to principle 7, influence on the public and the regulatory policy. So principle 7 is influencer. So tala influencer. Okay, so here the organization should contribute to the policy formulation and also policy. And policy formulation means bringing about. Advocacy means encouraging others to, talking about it and encouraging others to follow it. So, organization should contribute to policy formulation and policy advocacy. Then collective association, like the trade groups, industry chambers, it also should be utilized when we are moving ahead with policy formulation and policy advocacy. Moreover, this policy should encourage fair competition and prevent human right abuses. So, we should encourage fair competition and prevent the human right abuses. Policy 8, promote inclusive growth and equitable development. Okay, so 8, so everything should be included in there. Okay, what and all we should have? We should have a proper system. Then adverse impact should be checked. Creativity we should use, and we should design creative product that help marginal community to have well-being and better quality of life. CSR is also to be designed to help the marginal group and community. Displaced community, we should not forcefully move people from one place to another, and even if it is having, we should provide them fair compensation. Okay, so promote inclusive growth and equitable development. So we will start with the system. So in the system, we should have the procedures to identify and address the impact. Here in 6, what we should have policies to assess and rectify. So similarly, we will have to identify and address the impact on what social, cultural and economic aspect of the people. So this includes business created issues like land acquisition, use of construction or new facilities. So I think recently there was a India cement factory somewhere, and so much of dust was coming. Not India, some cement factory. So much was dust was coming out. The ownership changed, and something happened. They are leasing everything outside. So there should be a proper system. And adverse impact, we should measure, review, measure, and track the adverse impact. Review, measure, and track the adverse we should review, measure, and track the adverse impact. And creatively we should design the product to bring about the better quality. If they are displaced, then we should also provide a fair compensation. Then principle number 9, consumers should be fine. We should reduce the impact of the products and services on them. We should give them a freedom of choice, and it should fair competition should be encouraged, and there should be transparency. So they should disclose what and all impact is there on user, planet, society, and biodiversity of the product. So these are the aspects of BRSR. These are the 9 principles. A quick recap, go through it whenever you have time. All the best.